Sitcoms are meant to last forever, the shows you can turn on any time and still feel at home. But sometimes, it's not the writers or the ratings that kill them, it's the actors themselves. From backstage feuds to public scandals, these stars went from fan favourites to the very reason their sitcoms fell apart. Here are 10 actors who ruined their own shows. Sheen by 2.5 Men. When people talk about sitcoms that collapsed in real time, nothing tops Charlie Sheen on 2.5 Men. At its peak, the show was the biggest comedy on television. Millions tuned in every week to watch Sheen's Playboy character, Charlie Harper, so close to his real persona that it barely felt like acting. But behind the laughs, chaos brewed. By 2011, Sheen was making headlines for wild parties, drug binges, and bizarre rants. Then came the infamous meltdown. He blasted creator Chuck Lorre in interviews, declared himself a warlock with tiger blood, and promised he was winning, while the rest of the world watched in disbelief. The fallout was instant. Warner Brothers fired Sheen, production shut down, and the show scrambled to survive with Ashton Kutcher stepping in. Ratings dipped, fans drifted, and what had once been a cultural juggernaut became a cautionary tale. Charlie Sheen didn't just ruin his career, he dragged an entire sitcom down with him. Number 2, Roseanne Barr by Roseanne Revival. The original Roseanne was a cornerstone of American TV, gritty, funny, and unapologetically real. So when ABC revived it in 2018, the hype was enormous. The premiere pulled in over 18 million viewers, making it the biggest sitcom comeback of the decade. But all it took was one late-night tweet to bring it crashing down. Roseanne's racist remarks set off a firestorm, and within hours ABC cancelled the show. Years of legacy and a billion-dollar franchise went up in smoke. The cast and crew scrambled, salvaging the spin-off The Connors without its star, but the damage was irreversible. With one impulsive tweet, Roseanne Barr managed to destroy not only her own career, but the future of her sitcom. Number 3, Chevy Chase by Community. For fans, Community was a breath of fresh air, meta-humour, clever writing, and a cast that clicked instantly. But behind the camera, tension simmered, and one actor became the centre of the storm. Chevy Chase, once a comedy pioneer, clashed endlessly with creator Dan Harmon. The fights grew public, the set grew toxic, and castmates described the experience as draining. It went further when racist remarks surfaced, cementing his reputation as difficult and divisive. When Chase finally exited, the show carried on, but his image never recovered. Instead of a celebrated comeback, his time on Community became a cautionary tale about how ego and conflict can overshadow even the sharpest sitcom. Number 4, Suzanne Summers by Three's Company. In the late 70s, Three's Company was a runaway hit. Slapstick comedy, cheeky plots, and a cast that had perfect chemistry. But as the show climbed higher in the ratings, cracks began to form behind the scenes. Suzanne Summers, who played the bubbly Chrissy Snow, pushed for a massive salary increase to match her co-star John Ritter. Negotiations turned ugly, tensions rose, and the cast's once friendly bond fell apart. Producers cut her role down to almost nothing before phasing her out entirely. What should have been a golden run for the show instead turned into one of the most infamous sitcom disputes of its era, remembered less for laughs and more for a bitter falling out. Number 5, Michael Richards by Seinfeld. For years, Seinfeld reigned as the ultimate show about nothing, and Michael Richards as Kramer was one of its most beloved characters. But long after the finale, his offstage actions cast a shadow over the sitcom's legacy. During a 2006 stand-up performance, Richards launched into a racist tirade against hecklers in the audience. The shocking outburst was caught on video and spread instantly, turning public opinion against him overnight. Despite apologies, the damage stuck. Instead of being remembered solely as the eccentric neighbour who stole every scene, Richards became a cautionary example of how one moment can tarnish an entire career and taint the memory of a sitcom classic. Let's pause for a second. Which sitcom meltdown shocked you the most so far? And if you could bring back just one of these shows, without the drama, what would it be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to see what everyone remembers. Number 6, Amanda Bynes by What I Like About You. In the early 2000s, What I Like About You was pitched as a light-hearted teen sitcom, carried by the charm of Amanda Bynes. She was fresh off Nickelodeon success, seen as one of the brightest young stars of her generation. But as the show progressed, The pressures of fame began to take their toll. Rumours of erratic behaviour circulated, and soon after the series ended, Bynes faced a very public breakdown, legal troubles, bizarre social media posts, and long stretches away from Hollywood. What could have been a launchpad for a long sitcom career instead became the high point before a steep decline. Today, the show is remembered as much for its behind-the-scenes unravelling as for the laughs on screen. Number 7, Macaulay Culkin by The Jim Gaffigan Show. When The Jim Gaffigan Show premiered in 2015, it leaned heavily on quirky cameos, and one of the biggest surprises was Macaulay Culkin playing an exaggerated version of himself. For a moment, it felt like the child star was finally staging a clever comeback, but the promise didn't last. Behind the scenes, Culkin was reluctant to commit, and his unpredictable reputation made producers uneasy. The show only lasted 2 short seasons before being scrapped, with Culkin's involvement remembered more as a curiosity than a real return. Instead of relaunching his career, the sitcom cameo highlighted just how far he'd drifted from the star everyone once knew. Number 8. Danny Masterson by That 70s Show. For years, That 70s Show was a nostalgic staple, giving audiences a funny, carefree look at teen life in the groovy suburbs. But years after the finale, the legacy of the sitcom was overshadowed by one of its stars. Danny Masterson, who played Hyde, was later convicted on serious criminal charges. The news shocked fans and cast a long shadow over a show that had once felt innocent and light-hearted. Instead of being remembered as part of a beloved ensemble, Masterson's name is now tied to scandal. For many viewers, it forever changed how they look back at That 70s Show. Number 9, Robert Blake by Baretta. Back in the 1970s, Baretta stood out as a gritty, streetwise sitcom drama hybrid, and Robert Blake's tough guy charm made him the face of the show. His pet cockatoo and catchphrase, "Don't do the crime if you can't do the time," became part of pop culture. But Blake's off-screen life turned darker than anything scripted. Accusations, legal troubles, and a highly publicised murder trial erased whatever goodwill he'd earned on television. Instead of being remembered as a groundbreaking TV star, Blake became a tabloid figure. For many, the scandal consumed the show's memory entirely, making Baretta more infamous than iconic. Number 10, Martin Lawrence by Martin. In the early 90s, Martin was one of the funniest shows on television. Martin Lawrence's larger-than-life characters and wild energy turned it into a cultural phenomenon. But behind the laughs, the set became a powder keg. Co-star Tisha Campbell filed a lawsuit against Lawrence, alleging harassment and abusive behaviour. The tension grew so toxic she left the show, returning only for the final season under strict conditions. What should have been a long-running sitcom classic instead collapsed under its own star. Lawrence's antics may have made the show unforgettable on screen, but off-screen they brought Martin to a messy and premature end.